Ladies and gents, it's Monday. It's sunny, though weirdly cold, and it's time for an alternative paper review. First up to the Daily Telegraph this morning. Macron trounced in right-wing EU surge. This is a story that following the first national exit polls over in France, it's shown a super swing towards Marine Le Pen, and so President Macron has called a snap general election, guys. Now, you might remember Marine Le Pen. She's been on the block for a while. Not so long ago, she was promising a French Brexit, or Frexit. Plus, she very much checks all of the boxes. She demonizes immigration. She champions protectionist, insular solutions to a globalized, interconnected world. There's a history of Russian money. Le Pen is basically a French Trump. Or Frump. I mean, just as a side note, like how weird is it that people are still falling for populism in 2024? Like, you've all seen Trump, haven't you? You know, Mr. Inject bleach into your lungs, Mr. Stare directly at the sun, fails to build his wall, fails to improve the lives of regular Americans, not to mention the actual insurrection. You've all seen Boris Johnson, haven't you? The sluggish growth, the unbuilt bridges, the lies on the bus. Or what about this guy? Who remembers this nutter? Similar vibe. Privatize everything, drastically cut public services, simple solutions to complex problems. Should we check in on how Argentina are faring since this guy won his election? Oh dear. Like, how are people still falling for this in 2024? Like, I used to think, wow, you know, I guess people are just really uninformed, you know, like maybe they don't watch the news much, and so then they just choose their favorite color, you know, like, I do not like a blue, I will vote a rouge. These days, I think there's no real way that you can still claim to be ignorant of this sort of stuff. Like, these days, I think people and their politics are just like a bad relationship, you know, where you know this person is not going to be good for you, but you just can't say no to them because you're so fucking traumatized and beaten that the drama just feels like home. It's like you have an alternative. Over here, it's just some guy called, you know, Clive. Oh, hey, I'm Clive. I'm a nice guy. Do you want to go and get dinner sometime? And you're like, oh, wow, Clive, you know what? It's nice to be asked. It is. But then the option that you are choosing comes out like, hey, Darlene, get your fat ass over here and pay my rent. And poor Clive's like, are you sure you don't want to come out with me sometime? And she's like, well, it certainly sounds appealing, Clive, but here's the thing. I just can't bring myself to believe that things could be better for me if I went with you. So I'm going to stay here with Billy Bob, who fits with my beaten and traumatized worldview. Because then, at least when everything is and remains a crushing disappointment, at least then I can say that I was right, that things can't ever be better. Right. I see. At least then I can always say, well, it was always just a fantasy. Right. I mean, it seems like a sort of self-perpetuating form of self-sabotage or something. But if you're sure, yes, yeah, no, I'm very sure. I'm vociferously, angrily positive about this in public quite often. Oh, okay. I mean, if you want it spelling out for you, I would rather be traumatized and right than wrong and happy. I see. I mean, honestly, guys, like the French far right celebrating as they become the latest country to nosedive into populism, when for much of the rest of the world we sort of looked at that period like, yeah, I think we're done with that. That is like an up and coming band getting all braggy and smuggy because they've just announced that they're going to do an album with William Orbit. Anyway, over to the Times now. Tories must unite and embrace Farage, says Suella Braverman. Oh, wow, okay. Yeah, well, we should definitely listen to her, because this is a twice-sacked Home Secretary who has made a career out of division and is now on about uniting, is she? Like, how come when it's for the good of the party, People like her are always like, well, it's time to unite. You know, enough of the division. It's time for unity. Bring them into the conservative family, guys. But when it's for the good of the country to come together, then it's all like, nah, actually, I quite like a bit of division. And these people are the nationalists? Are they? You can file this one under patriots who weirdly make you ashamed to be British. And finally to the Washington Post. Bit of a curveball, I know. But it looks like in the run-up to possibly regaining the White House, Republicans, the Church of MAGA, led by Orange Jesus everyman Donald Trump, who is, you understand, only looking out for you little people, for the little guy. Well, it seems their first port of call, if they regain the White House, is going to be to cut taxes for corporations and the super wealthy. Yeah! Go on, Donny! And this is just like in 2017 when he passed his legendary tax cuts that were a dream for the working class, supposedly. Jobs and investment were going to pour into the United States, he said. But then what happened? Can you take a wild fucking guess? Yes, that's right. The American economy slowed right down while the richest 1% got even richer. And isn't that a nice note to leave you on? A little positive news story to start your week with. Trump is very much polling ahead of Joe Biden in all of the key states. The only positive thing about Joe Biden is his mindset. And that's largely because every time he does another gaffe, within 24 hours, it's wiped. Like fucking Groundhog Day. The last time Trump was in office, they had what I think is still the world's worst COVID death toll and spiraling and soaring inequality. But I'm sure this time, you know, if current polling is to be believed, if and when he does regain the White House, I'm sure this time he will make America great on everyone again. Anyway, that's it for this one, guys. I have to go. But if you're not a member of the Patreon or the YouTube community yet, do check out the links in the description below. If you're wondering what the benefits might be of joining the Patreon, I can't go into details and, you know, the substance, the specifics of what you might get in return. But let's just round it up and just say you can expect 40 new hospitals, a golden bridge, will make YouTube great again, and a blowjob for everyone. Peace.